Good afternoon, CannaSphere fam. Welcome to another episode of the hip and happenings of the cannabis industry in South Africa. Things are really buzzing at the moment. There's just so much going on. It's crazy. I really feel this crazy energy as we move towards, hopefully, a nicely even regulated place where we can actually all thrive and prosper from this exciting industry. We've got quite a lot coming up today. I'm flying solo. Linda is high up in the sky, literally on an airplane, so unfortunately could not join us. But we will be here with all the usual stuff. We've got quite a few things we're covering today. We're going to talk about the Black Farmers March to SAPRA over licensing gripes, which has just happened. The Agricultural Department gazettes new hemp regulations, which is definitely an exciting step forward. The Eastern Cape puts out tenders for 20,000 cannabis seeds to kickstart the hemp season. I find that interesting that a government body has actually made this call. So we'll hear more about that. Gauteng calls for cannabis investors in the Vaal Triangle for the special economic zone. I was on a conference for that earlier this week. Very interesting. A lot of investment coming into that region, which is super exciting. And last but certainly not least, the top 10 reasons why people smoke weed. Noxy will be enlightening us on that towards the end of the program. But for now, without further ado, we cross straight to Limpopo province for the headlines.
Good day from a chilly Limpopo province. The Black Farmers Association of South Africa is holding a protest march against the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority in Pretoria today. It's accused the regulator of being influenced by international pharmaceutical companies in the way that it awards cannabis licenses. The farmers say locals are being locked out of the cannabis economy and have demanded the dissolution of the SAPRA board and the firing of the chair and the CEO. SAPRA maintains it's only a regulator and not in charge of policy, and its primary concern is the safety of the consumer. The Black Farmers Association says SAPRA's only issued 31 licenses to date, all to big businesses, while there are an estimated 900,000 or so informal cannabis farmers in the country, and a lot more if marijuana was to be completely legalized. It's been a historic week in that government has finally tabled new regulations defining hemp as an agricultural crop and establishing a new hemp permit regime. It issued a notice in the Government Gazette saying cannabis of less than 0.2% THC could be called hemp. While this has been welcomed and that government is finally showing a commitment to getting a local hemp industry off the ground, critics are warning that keeping South African weed to low THC levels is going to be difficult to manage consistently, and that South Africa should have followed Malawi's case, where that country has defined hemp as having a 1% THC threshold. Insiders warn that Southern African sunlight consistently spikes THC levels, and with the best intentions in the world, we cannot grow low THC cannabis very well. The new hemp regime is all well and good, but the problem is that the government has still not changed the Drug and Drug Trafficking Act, which still defines hemp as a narcotic. That means even if the Agriculture Department can issue hemp licenses, the police will still be legally empowered to seize and destroy any commercial cannabis crop. This has also been a historic week in that for the first time ever, a South African government entity has put out an open public tender for the supply of a cannabis product. Yep, the Eastern Cape Rural Development Agency has put out a tender for the supply of 20,000 low THC percentage cannabis seeds to kickstart the 2021-22 hemp season. The supplier needs to have experience in the hemp industry and be able to provide support services to small farmers. Meanwhile, the Eastern Cape Provincial Agriculture Department has funded a hemp training farm in Uitenhage that will be operational by the end of the year. The province has put 900,000 rand into a farm owned by a young woman entrepreneur, Sinazo Chaka, and she'll take on 10 interns a year to teach them how to grow hemp as the Eastern Cape moves forward in the cannabis economy. And back up to Gauteng and the Vaal Triangle, Gauteng Premier David Makura is actively looking for cannabis investors to put their cash into the Vaal Triangle. He told a special investment conference last week that cannabis was to play a central role in driving the Sedibeng Special Economic Zone, which will see the creation of a new agri-park and urban area called Vaal City. Makura said that Gauteng wanted to get a medical cannabis export industry off the ground and would make it investor-friendly. Makura, as you remember, is the guy who challenged the space billionaires to take South African cannabis seeds into space. We're still waiting to hear if anyone has accepted his out-of-this-world challenge. We'll keep you posted on that on CannaSphere. Back to you, Trenton.
Thanks, Brett. Lots going on as always. I feel like it's difficult to figure out what we actually put into the news these days because there's so much going on, which is super exciting. Yep. I was actually on the conference for the Val Triangle, and obviously it's over and above, cannabis is only part of it. But some of the things they're planning are incredible, super cities, and I really, really hope that we can bring those things to fruition, because they are great opportunities to, inject kind of industry and capital into our economy. So there were some great speeches and some great conversations. So I really hope that, cannabis is obviously part of that, but it will be exciting to see that region grow, because ultimately it is one of the powerhouses traditionally of industrialization in Africa. It's kind of fallen a bit by the wayside. So it could be exciting to see how that grows. On this Malawi thing. No, sorry, carry on, Brett.
No, sorry, Trenton, what I was going to say is what's very interesting for me is, as a journalist following the money, is to see where the money is going to be coming from to develop the cannabis economy. And it looks like national government is dithering a bit. They're struggling with regulations and laws, etc. And it's the provinces that have taken the lead, and in particular the provincial development agencies. So the likes of Westgrow in the Western Cape, the Gauteng, whatever their development agency is, the Eastern Cape Development Agency. These are all quasi-government organizations that have access to funding from the likes of Department of Trade and Industry or the Development Bank and such like. And so you can see that this is where these are going to be the new cannabis banks for small-scale farmers, are going to be the provincial development agencies. And I think that's quite fascinating, as to see where the money is going to come from to kickstart the stuff.
I certainly hope so. I mean, one of the things that I read this morning in the States was that the amount of investment percentage-wise has actually increased quite dramatically recently. So there's definitely huge amounts of faith in the international industry. And it really is only just a question of time, I think, before investors actually put capital into this space. I think there's a lot of people waiting in the wings, but really, we've got to keep pushing forward. I find it very interesting and ironic, places like Malawi coming up with progressive approaches to the percentage of THC in hemp. It just doesn't make any sense to me why we keep, while we're not looking at our local circumstances and creating local solutions. We keep, looking towards Europe and keep looking towards America, whereas in our backyard we have people who are going to compete with us, and we're losing that edge all the time.
And it's terrifying. It's just, as one hemp farmer said to me, if only policymakers were farmers themselves, they'd understand things a lot more differently. And that is the problem that you're talking about. There's a disconnection between policymakers and reality, and that we've shot ourselves in the foot by giving ourselves such a low hemp percentage, a low THC definition percentage in hemp, because Czechoslovakia has taken the lead in Europe to say, we're happy with hemp having 1% THC. And I think in my mind, it's really only when you get up to about 5% THC that it starts becoming psychoactive or whatever. So I think that there's, even up to a 3% THC, although the Europeans used to growing hemp in their colder climate.
Oh, it looks like we've lost Brett there for a minute. Brett, we'll come back to you in a second, but I think we're going to cross over to Noxy to give us some update on top 10 reasons.
Hopefully South Africans.
He's back. Noxy, we're going to cross to you. Brett, we've lost you. Goodbye. See you later.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Canyon News Lifestyle Desk, broadcasting live from the big JHB. I am the Kush Queen, bringing you all things local and international lifestyle, art, and entertainment in the CannaSphere. Once upon a time, in the near or distant past, we were all skeptics when it came to cannabis. We'd all heard the horror stories about cannabis makes you crazy or lazy or both. Yet, here we are in an age where weed has become super normal. And how did we find ourselves here? What is the why? Well, researchers have done some recent studies rounding up the top 10 reasons why people smoke weed. At number 10, coping with boredom. 9, better sleep. 8, enjoyment of movies or music, makes sense. Forgetting one's problems at number 7. Coping with depression and anxiety at number 6. New ways of looking at things at number 5. Inspiration at number 4. Medical uses at number 3. Feeling good at number 2. And the number 1 reason why people smoke weed, relaxation. Couldn't agree more, actually. I would have thought, though, that better sleep would have been a bit higher in the list, but it's sitting at number 9. That's just my opinion. What motivates your cannabis consumption? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a comment and let us know. Brett, Trenton, why did you start smoking weed?
I think that's a terrible peer
After you,
group.
Brett.
No, hi, Noxy. I discovered it at university, at that Rhodes University, that den of iniquity. And it kind of opened up my life into a way of seeing things from I grew up in an apartheid space, and there was a mixture of cannabis, African music, and protest politics that were happening that just opened up a new world to me that all went hand in hand. So, it kind of feels like it's a sort of part of the ongoing African revolution. And I think that it was part of that apartheid South Africa that got me into the consciousness of seeing that this is something that could actually liberate people. And I was at university when the sort of first Bob Marley songs were coming out, and that was revolutionary, reggae taking over the world.
Okay, Brett, revealing your age. Trenton?
I was just naughty. So I was just do anything that I wasn't supposed to do. I think that's how I started. But I also realized, that it was just fun, and it would take the mundane and turn it into something exciting. Eventually, as I started making music, and I was quite young when I started using cannabis, I just found that it was a very good creative outlet. It was just good for writing songs and good for just shifting perspective and thinking about things in a different way. So, I've used it for many reasons. Relaxation is certainly one. Dealing with stress and a bit of anxiety. The creative processes. There's a number of reasons. And I love what you say. It's like new ways of looking at things and feeling good. Like cannabis makes you feel good. It makes you feel relaxed and different, and we live in a crazy world where we're bombarded with chaos all the time, whether it's the news or social media, or so sometimes we just need to escape. And I don't personally have an issue with using non-toxic things to escape. People use other kinds of things to escape, which are not so good. But we all need to relieve the pressure sometimes, and that's just the nature of the beast. And yes, we can meditate and we can exercise, and I believe in those things as well. But you need a balance. So for me, it's about the balance. It's all about the balance. Noxy, why did you start smoking weed?
Yes, Noxy, tell us how did you start?
I started experimenting with space muffins in high school. Naughty Noxy. But I've never been a good child, so I'm with you there, Trenton. My mother will tell you so many stories. So for me, it was just experimentation, and then I stopped. Like, it wasn't an ongoing thing. And then when I got with my current partner, he is just uyayithanda insang. In Zulu, that means he loves me.
Surrounded.
So it was like a natural thing. And then I started to really enjoy it in my adulthood. And I love how you mentioned escaping, because for me, cannabis is not an escape, but it brings me a new perspective to whatever I'm going through. I'm able to face my issues better, or my problems, or whatever it is that I'm feeling overwhelmed by. There's a new perspective that cannabis brings for me. So I'm able to look at things from an objective perspective and not be emotional about them. So that's my reason.
All of the above. I think the more people that try cannabis and the more destigmatized it becomes, the more people realize that it can be a really healthy part of life. I was reading a report earlier on about how people are using cannabis to exercise. Obviously, you don't necessarily want to get on a mountain bike and do downhill, but if you're running or working out in the gym and it's managed, I've tried it a few times. It's not something I do often, but I think it can help you zone. Obviously, as a muscle relaxant, So I found it quite beneficial, and that's apart from consuming cannabis after you've exercised, which is very good for muscle recovery, etc. So yeah, lots of reasons.
I think what is also very interesting is that cannabis it's not just for stoners. There's a whole hemp industry that's unfolding. That there's application of cannabis in building of automotive parts. There's RDP housing we could build out of hemp. There's the whole medicinal side. There's the health supplement side. There's cannabis and animals, and there's recreational adult use. Call it what you want. Plain old-fashioned fun cannabis. There's a place for everybody in this thing, which makes it so fascinating. And I think that we're getting impatient that government has been at the forefront of this consciousness of legalizing cannabis or liberating the plants, and yet the moving parts are moving so slowly.
What I'm fascinated about is I've been delving into the hemp side of cannabis, and I was given this brick, but it's not just a normal brick. It's a brick made from hemp. Tony Budding gave this to me, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing how sustainable hemp is and the amount of products. I mean, I've always kind of known this. I've only recently really dug into the actual facts and details, and we run a hemp course, a one-day hemp course, which goes into all of this stuff. And if you separate that out from this psychoactive and medical side, it is just absolutely insane that we cannot use hemp as a product. I mean, the American State of Declaration of Independence was written on hemp. Christopher Columbus's sails were made from hemp. Hemp has been part of our matrix for centuries and centuries, but due to politics and prohibition and narrow-minded human beings, we've ended up in this weird cycle. So hemp, for me, industrial hemp, I think has huge potential. And as it comes online, I'm very, very excited about that.
I love the comment made by an Eastern Cape community activist who said hemp, the RDP houses made out of hemp would be a good idea because when they fell down like they would inevitably, they wouldn't necessarily kill you.
Well, I promise you now, if you threw that brick on someone's head, it would definitely kill them.
Okay.
On a final note, and quite a sad note at the moment, I don't know if you guys have heard that there's a man in Singapore that is due to be hung due to cannabis possession. I think he had 2 pounds of cannabis, which is just under about a kilo, just over a kilo. We'll wait to see what happens with that. But I mean, just in this day and age, I'm sorry, that's just not really acceptable behavior at all. So let's hope that there's some serious political willpower that comes to the fore to make sure that this guy doesn't go down, because that will be a travesty for cannabis globally. So we'll keep you posted on that when we hear more about it.
Okay, guys, good to talk to you as usual. As always, we'll see each other again next Tuesday.
Yeah, have a great day. Ciao for now.
Have a great week, everyone. Peace.